And welcome back to Multifamily Live. Super excited for today's guest, Tom Laune. Hey, Tom, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jason. Thank you so much for having me on today.
So Tom's got an awesome story. He's also going to be joining us at Multifamily Live coming up very shortly in the next week or so. And he's also one of the sponsors here with Bulletproof Wealth. And Tom's had a unique path to creating the Bulletproof Wealth strategy. He enjoyed a 30-year career in the music industry as a recording engineer and producer, working with acts as diverse as R.E.M, Bruce Springsteen, and Amy Grant. And early on in his career, his financial progression recommended a disability income policy, something he didn't even know existed. And then, of course, several decades later, he suffered a high-frequency hearing loss while mixing a record and was no longer able to continue the job he loved. So at this time, his disability income policy became the most valuable possession he owned. It provided consistent tax-free monthly income payments that allowed him to go back to school and learn how to help others protect their financial future by becoming a chartered financial consultant, chartered life underwriter, and chartered special needs consultant. He also became an authorized infinite banking practitioner. So after many years of education and research, Tom created Bulletproof Wealth Strategy. Say that again, Bulletproof Wealth Strategy to help others protect their income and growth wealth. To secret to his strategy is to teaching people to use their money like banks do, of course, much higher rates of return than the average investor. So Tom, welcome to the show. We're super excited to have you at Multifamily Live. And you know, there's a lot to unpack here, but what was it here? You of course, have this disability at Legion and PARP here, but where did you come in front of ultimate banking, and what was it about that philosophy that really stood out with you?
Well, so Jason, I have kind of a unique story to how I kind of started on this path. And basically what it was is, so I remember one afternoon when I was at my house, I was in the music industry for 29 years. And I didn't realize this, but there was a lot of financial advisors preying on people in the music industry. And one specific thing that happened to me was that I'm sitting there, heard my doorbell ring. I go to answer the door, and, you know, it was my financial advisor with a troubled look on his face. And I invited him in, and he unraveled this long story, Jason, believe it or not, of how he had lied to me and how he had been using my money fraudulently and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, he was begging me not to turn him into the authorities. So I couldn't believe it. I was literally in shock. And that story, just crazily enough, I've had 4 financial advisors while I was in the music industry for 29 years, and 3 of the 4 ended up being fraudulent, and 2 of the 3 ended up in jail. I mean, it was a crazy deal of me getting a lot of bad advice from people. And I started on a journey of really trying to find out what was out there. And I ended up listening to a podcast that started talking about saving money in life insurance. And I thought, you know, I've never heard this before. And when I first heard it, to be totally honest with you, I thought, if this is so great, why isn't everybody else doing it? I know there's a lot of people who think that way, but because I had been taken advantage of so many times, I really spent a long time researching this and really read a lot of books. And I even went to a conference on it. And what happened with me was I ended up kind of doing a baby step into it, just starting, and really exceeded my expectations. And then, like you had said, I got a hearing loss, so I wasn't able to keep working in the music industry. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to try to be one of the guys in the financial industry that actually tells the truth as much as possible, doesn't hide things, doesn't have gotchas. And, you know, so I switched careers about 10 years ago and went back and got 3 financial designations and really tried to get a broad base understanding of what I'm doing. And Jason, I ended up specializing in working with real estate investors, and it has absolutely been an amazing 10-year run. I can tell you, it really has been awesome. I made a big mistake, and that is I took a recommendation from somebody who was doing really well in their profession, but not didn't know anything about money. So they were like, for example, I took a recommendation or got a referral from a guy who I worked with a lot and who was super successful. And I assumed that he was successful in all areas of his life. So I would just say, make sure you do your own vetting of people. If you're going to get a referral, do your own research. And then you want to try to find somebody, and I didn't know this at the time, but you want to try to find somebody who's educated and has really spent the time to put into their education to learn what they're doing before they start. Because one of the secrets of the financial services business is that you can start in about 2 weeks if you want to, right? But most of those people are just faking it until they make it and trying to figure out what they're doing as they go. I did a totally different path, and I went back to school for 4 years and got 3 different financial designations before I talked to the first person, because I just didn't want to be that guy,
Yeah.
And so I would say, look and see what is their credentials, and then ask around, and even look them up, go to the SEC and see if there's ever been a filing against them. There's a lot of stuff that you can do. You can go look on insurance websites. The NIAC is what it's called, the National Association of Insurance Commission, and they will be able to tell you if there's been a problem with somebody. Usually, Jason, you can't be fraudulent for 20 years. It's going to find you out. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does, right? Because at a certain point, if someone lies, they don't realize it, but they have to continue to lie to carry on the other lies. And where does it stop, right? And those are most of the stories they see is for some short-term success until ultimately they figure out that, well, they'll call it success or wins on them until they have to continue to either, pass the buck forward or find ways. And then certain things can expose them pretty easily. So,
yes,
but I'm sure the lesson learned.
This goes on in your business too, right? I mean, in the syndication world, if you have a long track record of doing successful syndication after successful syndication and you're a good operator, you're going to have that track record, right? And I know you have that. But I know there's also a lot of people who are just getting started, and it's like, do they know what they're doing? I don't know.
Yeah. The telltale from there is that looking forward, it's hard to predict what they can do, but the only thing you have to do is rely on their past, right? So how have they showed up in the other things they've done, right? And so if you think about it, if you see someone who now is in real estate syndication and for whatever reason, you go on and see even their Facebook profile and they've started or stopped 53 businesses in the last 4 years. It's a pretty telltale sign that a 5 to 10 year project here is probably not going to be the right fit for them, right? Unless something's drastically changed. But so certain things like that, you can see the allocation. But yeah, you're right. The track record carries suit, right? So aligning yourself with the right people helps a lot here. And, it helped at least, the couple of things it did build from that is it got you to where you are today with Bulletproof Wealth, right? And so it taught you a lot of where you want it to be, now helping others out there. What are some of the misconceptions about infinite banking or some of the outliers that people usually push back on?
Well, I will tell you that the number one misconception that I hear is people say, why would I ever pay to use my own money? That's just a common phrase that I hear thrown out there. Yeah. And the reality is that I teach, really the principles I'm teaching people is called interest rate arbitrage. That's what we're doing. And you're not using your own money. You're just borrowing money that you have collateralized at a very low interest rate, and then turn around and earning a higher interest rate, and you're making the spread. So one of the things that I teach people, and this is so difficult for some reason, Jason, to understand, is that if you are borrowing money at 4% and earning 8% on an investment, you are not making 4% on that deal. That is not how much money you're making. And it's just one of those things where, boy, is that a hard concept to get through. But I try to simplify it as much as possible by helping people, just put dollars to these percentages, because people don't think in terms of percentages. They think in terms of dollars. So if you're spending $4,000 and making $8,000 on a $100,000 loan, that's a 100% return you just got. So I try to teach these principles of banking to people. And once the light bulb goes off, man, it's just really amazing how they get it and take advantage of this. So really all we're doing is creating a line of credit similar to a home equity line of credit, but we're using life insurance as the collateral because it's a better collateral source than a home for being able to do banking with.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
It does. Ultimately, when usually the payout that most know about is the death benefit, and that's usually the event, right? And so at this part, if you can go back, when you think about it, you can win in a lot of ways here with infinite banking, because one of the huge advantages of it is that your money, they're pulling the funds from a pool. It's not actually your money. So if you put your money into a life insurance policy, it's not like you're taking your money out. So your money's still working. It's still gaining.
Yes.
You'll have a dividend against it too. Usually, nothing's ever absolute, but most of these parts have done dividends for decades, right? So typically there's some kind of dividend event with an interest rate that's already doing on your money while it's there and your money's growing. And the same part, they're pulling the money out of a pool. And just like you said, right? It is your money you're putting in here, but if your money's still working, and then of course you're taking your money back out and you'll be able to make more on that money. Now it's working almost 3 different ways. Well, that's the easy way to go there and make the most of your money. Because the other opportunity here is that if it was just your money, you're just basically putting your money out. That's the only option. You put your money out there, it's out, right? And so that it's out, you get one source of returns there.
So the way that I try to clarify that so people really understand it is I tell them, and this is the truth, you're using the insurance company's money. You're not using your own. That's why they still pay a dividend on your money. And it really is it just takes a minute to get over the mental hurdle of, wait a minute, nothing else quite works like that. Yeah. And once people understand that, yes, this does work really effectively, and there's not just that as the advantage, there's also tax advantages to doing it. And there's creditor and predator protection, and there's just a lot more living advantages. You don't have to die to make this thing work. So, that's
so the question would be, is that like why the insurance companies basically, they have all this money in a pool because it's basically theirs. They're taking the policy amounts and then paying out at death, right? So they have this money that they want, that's there in a pool, right? And so most insurance companies are successful for a reason, right? So they're paying out where it is. What are the other benefits to this? I mean, there's a ton, but if you had to say, give me your top 5 here, what would that lead to? Well,
the top benefits. Now, this is going to be a little bit esoteric, Jason, but it's something that I thought a lot about, and I do this myself. I've got 9 policies that I have done myself over the last 10 years. So I get this benefit is it gives you a goal to shoot for. And I love having goals, because if you don't have goals, man, you're not going to get anywhere. So one of the things that I do is I work really closely, holistically, to go through your whole financial situation and say, all right, if things go good next year, what is the most amount you can save? And then we make that as a target high-end goal.
Got it.
Now, that is not what you have to put into a policy when you're doing your savings, but if you have a goal to shoot for, it's amazing how people plan and provide for that so that they can hit that goal. That's not something very many people talk about, but what I'm doing is I'm helping people build wealth, because once it goes into the policy, now it's available as a larger amount they can collateralize to then make investments in things like real estate syndications.
Yep.
So I love the goal. I love how that works. And I think it's super important. And I think it's very not talked about enough, having that goal to shoot for.
That's a good point, because most of us who are out there and we find something, we're setting this up, we're going out there taking action, we're going to set up a point here where that goal keeps us in line, right? We know it's something that's going to come up here. And although it is, of course, we'll call it a policy payment, we're paying it to a portion. There's some fees, of course, who doesn't, but that it's paying into ours, that we can get to pull a pretty large percentage of that money come out, depending on how the policy's written.
Yep. And depending on how long it's been enforced, you ultimately have way more money in there than you ever put in. So there's it's one of the other big benefits is it sets you up for if you do it right, for a tax-free retirement income. because there's a lot of tax advantages in this. So you can be using it for your investment purposes during your working years. And then when you want to, you can kick on an income stream. There's only two places that you can save money that you can do tax-free retirement income: a Roth account and this. There's really nothing else that's truly tax-free. And of course, you do this. It has to be properly structured to be tax-free. You don't take out capital gains from this. But anyways, that's a long story. But I love the goals, and I love the eventual retirement income. That's a huge thing. I love the creditor and predator protection. It's like asset protection built in. Now that varies on a state by state basis, but it's a really very unique advantage. And of course, we're in Tennessee right now, which is awesome. So it's 100% here, unlimited amount in Tennessee. A lot of states, Florida, Texas, a lot of states are unlimited. There are a few that have limits on that, but it's a really unique advantage.
So Tom, this is incredible here, and you're going to be joining us at Multifamily Live. And
yes.
So people join us here and they'd love to learn more about infinite banking and specifically how you put together policies that are really geared. The cool thing is like it's going to meet your goals, as you said, right? So if the goal is to save 10,000 or $1 million, right? There's a policy that can be put in that fact that can help benefit you going out there with infinite banking, which is incredible here. So, we're excited to have you there. These are very beneficial, can help you a lot. If you're active in real estate, it's a no-brainer how this could potentially be a viable option for you to look for, especially because it covers you on both ways. And I think one of the other cool piece about it is also, how does this work compared to the traditional life insurance policy is that, it pushes off the buildup of your death benefit. But if you're a healthy person, chances are you're not looking to go anywhere anytime soon, right? So it pushes that out for a bit here and helps you push up your cash advance, or I don't know if advance is the right word, but the cash policy status of it, right? Yes. So it's pretty incredible how you guys have put this together, and just thank you for sharing on this.
Sure, Jason.
We have a lot of people that are going to see at Multifamily Live, but if some people can't join us or won't, you're busy there and can't talk, what's the best way to find out more about you and the company?
So I have a website called Bulletproof Wealth, and it's at bulletproofwealth.info. So info and not .com, bulletproofwealth.info. And if you go there, there's a free sign up where you can just put your name and email in, and you get access to a private video collection of me teaching on this concept. The best way to learn more is to just sign up at my website, bulletproofwealth.info, watch some of that education. And then if it makes sense to you, you can book a time right there to call me, and we can talk about it, and I can show you what you can qualify to do.
Amazing. Tom, it's incredible. I know the power of this. So I'm excited to have you join us at Multifamily Live. I'm excited to have you join us and talk to all these great people that are going to be joining us at this awesome 3-day event.
I'm super excited to be there, Jason. Definitely.
Perfect. So bulletproofwealth.info.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. You heard it. Go check it out. Come join us at Multifamily Live. We can't wait to see you in a few days. Tom's going to be there. We're going to have a great group, including you. Talk to you shortly.
Thank you, Jason.